Welcome to ClaimsForce. I'm Casey Clem, and here I'm going to show you how to add fields. When I say add fields, I mean anything that you see here in these boxes. These are all called fields. Everything on the top is called an entity. Entities are bigger items, and within entities you have fields. And so here you can see, as you create your system, every company and every client is different. Their jargon is different. Their verbiage is different. And the data that they track is different. So this will give you the opportunity and the ability to truly customize the fields and cater them to your business. So you come over here to the Administration tab. And the first thing that you need to do to add a field is to create it in the Entity Manager. So there's really two parts to this. First, we have to create the field, and then we have to actually make it show up. And the reason for that is every time you create a field, there are actually a lot more fields in claims, for example. There are a lot more fields in claims than what you actually see on this page. The reason for that being, perhaps you create several fields, but you're only going to use one of them right now. Or you may want to hide a field, but you may want to bring it back in the future, so you don't delete it, you simply hide it, and I will show you how to do that. So again, first we come into the Entity Manager under Customization, and we need to go into the entity in which we would like to add our field. Now, your system, your entities up here at the top, they may be named differently than the names you see here. Again, this comes back to verbiage and jargon of your business. So regardless of what you want to name it, in the system every entity has a hard-coded name. And we'll just take billing, for example. We have clients that they call billing quotes. We have clients that call billing work orders. We have clients that call billing accounting, right? Or estimates or invoices or whatever the name is. Every single one of those things, in order for the system to keep track, everything has to have a hard-coded name that will never ever change. And so that's the name you see here on the left. So really, vendors up here at the top in the system is hard-coded as account. Client, for example, in the system is hard-coded, as you see here at the bottom, as contact. Now a lot of these are going to be the same. Claim is claims, checks is checks. Ticket is another example. In the system, ticket is actually hard-coded as case. So you have the name that it's hard-coded in the system and the label, which is what you actually, the end user, sees. So that's very important when you're looking for something. So if you go looking for vendors, for example, if you want to update the vendor tab and you're looking here on the left hand side and you scroll down to the V's and you don't see vendor, right, you might get very confused and think it disappeared. So that's the first thing that you need to know. The name on the left, hard-coded name in the system. The name in the middle is the label that the individual user sees. And if I'm looking for something and I can't find it, the easiest way to check if it's there, I hit the Control F button, and up here you see the box pop up, and I can type anything in to the box. So if I want to say, okay, I want to find claims, okay, I start typing in claims, okay, and there's 5 things that say claims, so, and they all highlight, so I can reference very quickly where the claim entity is by using the Control F button. Okay. So let's just say I would like to add a field in claim. So, or we'll do client. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to come over here to fields. And this is in the client, also known as the contact field. So I come over here to fields. And here, now that I'm within the entity, here are all the fields that client currently has. Again, not everything that you see in clients, but everything that client has in the system and their labels. So here you have on the left what's hard-coded in the system. Again, the label is how it appears to the user. So if I'm going to add a new field, I'm going to click Add Field, and now here you have a bunch of different types, and I'm just going to go over the main ones that you'll be using. Many of these are self-explanatory. Address, obviously, is address. Attachment multiple, when you're in like Microsoft Word and you have the paperclip button to attach something, or you're in an email and you see the paperclip button, that's just an attachment. Again, if you need to create an attachment button to attach photos or documents, you're going to create an attachment multiple field. Auto increment. Auto increment is, for example, in tickets, every time you create a new ticket, it has its own number, and the number is auto-generated, and it starts at 1, and the next time I create a ticket, the number will be 2, and next time it will be 3, and it goes up from there. So that is the auto increment button, or auto increment field. Boolean is simply a checkbox. So if you need a checkbox to notate yes or no whether something happened, you would create a Boolean. Currency obviously is self-explanatory. Date. A date time field would be June 14th at 6:30 p.m., whereas the date field would just be June 14th. All right. The one that's very popular that you will be using is enum. Enum is just another word for drop-down menu. For example, this button, Add Field, this is an enum. That is the type. It is a drop-down with the ability to make a single selection. If you scroll down here, you see multi-enum. A multi-enum is a drop-down where you may make multiple selections. So if this field type was a multi-enum, I could select Boolean and currency. I could make 2 fields. But again, this is not a multi-enum. It is a single enum, which is that. So if you need to create a drop-down to make one choice, you would do an enum. If you need to make multiple selections, like for example, let's say you have a client, that is a company in multiple states, and you want to notate which states that they do business in. You would create a multi-enum, and in your fields, you'd have every state from Alaska to Wyoming, and you'd give them the ability to make multiple selections. A foreign field is a field that's going to pull from somewhere else. So, for example, if I enter a phone number on client, and I would like that phone number to show up on claim, I could have a foreign field and pull the phone number into the claim. A foreign field is just pulling data from another entity into somewhere else. An image is self-explanatory. An integer field, if you just want a field to add numbers. A number auto increment is, again, it's an auto increment, but it's only numeric. With a auto increment, it can be an alphanumeric field. The last couple ones to remember, a URL, like a Facebook URL or a website address, would be a URL field, enabling you so that when you click on that field or the data in that field, it would subsequently take you to that URL. The last two that you really need to know are text and varchar. The varchar field is a text field, but it is a condensed version of a text field. So many of the fields that you're going to create, if you just need to fill in information, are going to be varchar fields. So like a name or a place or the number of bedrooms, or something that's going to be 10 words or less. It's going to be a varchar field, maybe even 5 words or less. Now, if you need to write a paragraph, like make notes or a description, that's going to be an actual text field. And the reason for the distinction is that every field that you add takes up data and it takes up space. And so if you've got a billion fields that you need to add and you add them all as text fields, you're going to clog up the system and slow it down. So many of your fields, to conserve storage space, you'll create as varchar fields. So in this case, let's just say I'm going to make an enum. And I'm going to name this enum. I'm in clients. Let's say I want to do a source field, which is probably already created, but let's just say I'm going to do source of reference or something. Okay, so I'm going to name it source of reference. Now, once you fill out the name here, you hit the tab button, and it'll auto-fill the label for you, and it will convert the name to camel case as it is hard-coded in the system. So I have my label here. Required, I can make a field be required, meaning I won't be able to save the client page until I've entered data into this field, which I don't need to do that for this one. But now I have my options. So I want to make a drop-down for source of reference, and I can put in however many options I wish. I could say referral. I could say website. I could say SEO. I could say friend. I could say family. Right? I can put whatever I want in here, and these fields. Now, if I want the field to be blank at the top when I hit the drop down or revert to none, I just hit the enter button on that last one, and then I drag it up to the top. And then I notice I make my default one. I will make it the blank one. So what that means is if I don't put any data in there, it will show up as none, which you may want from time to time. And all these fields I can drag. I can sort them alphabetically. If I've got 50 different fields there and I want them to be sorted alphabetically, I can do that. And that is how you create a field, an enum in this sort. Audited, what audited means is when you look at the stream, well, first let me tell you about read-only. A read-only field means once you make this selection and you hit the save button, the next time you go into this field, you will not be able to edit it. It will be stuck there forever. And that may be important on certain accounting fields or certain things that you don't want people to touch after they've been created. You can select them and be a read-only field. A tooltip text. This little I button is called a tooltip text. So again, it provides explanation. So if you have fields that can be termed ambiguous and you want to give further insight or clarification, you can make some tooltip text there. And we'll come back to audited in just a second. Dynamic logic, now we're starting to get pretty complex, but while you're here, you might as well learn. Dynamic logic means, this first one is conditions making the field visible. Now, for example, maybe I only want the source to pull up if if XYZ is true, right? If another field is coded a certain way. Maybe I want to hide this box unless something else has been selected that makes me care what the source is, right? So that would be the reason for dynamic logic. I guess as an example, we have one client that they want to know what CRMs their clients are using, and so we have a drop down for CRM, and we've got about 5 different options under the CRM, and one of the options is other. So they want to be able to notate what the name of that other CRM is if a client is using one that's not listed in the drop down. So we created a varchar just like this, and we called it other, but we didn't want it to constantly clog up the client tab. So we created some dynamic logic that said, okay, I only want this other box to show up if this other field, and we'll just say it was status, right? Or I don't even know if we have a CRM one in here. Let's try. Nope, CRM's not in this one. But we'll just say I only want this field to show up if the state, equals Utah, right? Or I only want this field to show up if the state does not equal Utah, meaning if it's any other state besides Utah, this source field is going to show up. Or is empty, is not empty, right? So you can create conditions whereby these fields will be visible. And you can create conditions that would make a field required or make it read-only. You can create conditions for anything else as well. Audited, that means it's tracked. So if I hit this audited button, I won't save this one, but once you save it, I will save it so I can show you in the next step. Audited, what that means is if I come in here to a client and I click on this client, you can see there's only one thing in this stream here. But underneath the stream, I have posts and updates. If I hit updates, it's going to show me everything that was touched in this client that was audited. So if you want to say, okay, every time a sales rep changed any of the accounting fields, I want to know about it, then you would make all those fields audited. So if a commission was changed from $10,000 to $20,000, that's probably something you want to keep track of and notate. So you would make that field audited, meaning it would show up here in the stream. It would show you who touched it and what they changed it from what to what, and what time they did it at. So that is the purpose of that audit box. Okay, that was the first step. The next step, now that I've created my field, I need to actually add it and make it show up. So I come in here to administration, and I come into the layout manager. And now that I'm in the layout manager, I will come into clients because that's where I created my field. And I'm going to come down here to detail. And I'll explain these other options in the next video. But for now, I'm going to come into detail. Everything that you see here in this main frame is what's already on the page. It's what's already showing in client. But I want to make source pop up, which source of reference is right here. So as you see here, it's click and drag. So everything that's disabled here or available fields, it's everything that I've made already in the entity manager that I have not placed in the layout manager. I have not made it show up. But let's say I want to put a place for it. So I'll just come down here to this plus button, and I'm going to pull source of reference over. So I pull source of reference over, And I can mix and match, right? I can move it up. I can move account type down here. I can move source of reference up there. And you just do that by clicking and dragging. Okay. But let's just leave it right there for now at the bottom. And then I hit save. All right. So now I come over to clients. I'm going to click on Gianna, for example. I come down here and bam, I have a source of reference. I've got my tooltip text popped up, and let's see what my options are. I hit the update button. I've got all the options that I created there, and then I can hit update, and there it is. So that is how you create a field and add it into the layout manager.